In our quest to understand the universe, we have peered into the hearts of distant galaxies and unraveled the secrets of the atom. We have mapped the vast expanse of spacetime and traced the origins of life back through billions of years of evolution. Yet, for all our cosmic exploration, perhaps the most profound and perplexing mystery lies not in the stars, but within ourselves. It is the enigma of consciousness. What is this inner movie that plays for an audience of one? This feeling of being you, right here, right now. This is what philosopher David Chalmers famously called the hard problem of consciousness, and it stands as one of the final frontiers of scientific inquiry. The easy problems, relatively speaking, involve understanding how the brain processes information, how it responds to stimuli, or how it controls our bodies. We can track electrical signals firing between neurons and map which parts of the brain light up when we see a color or hear a sound. But the hard problem asks something far more fundamental. Why does all this intricate processing like anything at all? Why is there a subjective, first-person experience attached to it? Why don't we just function like sophisticated biological robots, processing data without any inner awareness? This question probes the very nature of reality and our place within it. This isn't just an abstract philosophical puzzle. It's the central feature of our existence. Every joy you've ever felt, every sorrow that has brought you to tears, the vibrant red of a sunset, the rich taste of chocolate, the melody of a favorite song, all of it is a product of consciousness. Without it, the universe might as well be an empty stage, a collection of particles and forces playing out according to physical laws, with no one to witness the show. Understanding consciousness is, in a very real sense, understanding what it means to be alive and to experience the cosmos. It challenges us to bridge the gap between the objective, physical world and our subjective, inner reality. As we stand on the precipice of this great unknown, we are forced to consider some truly mind-bending possibilities. Is consciousness merely a clever trick of the brain, a useful illusion produced by complex computation, or is it something more fundamental, woven into the fabric of the universe itself? The journey to answer this question takes us through the realms of neuroscience, physics, philosophy, and even spirituality. It invites us to weigh the evidence, to question our assumptions, and to embrace the humbling reality that the most familiar thing in the world, our own awareness, remains the most mysterious. Let's embark on this journey together. So, what exactly this thing we call consciousness? In the simplest terms, it is your awareness. It is the feeling of being alive and having experiences. As neuroscientist Christoph Koch puts it, consciousness is everything you experience. It's the sharp sting of a paper cut, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the feeling of love for your family, or the simple awareness of your own thoughts as they drift through your mind. These individual subjective experiences are what philosophers call qualia. You can describe the color red to someone who has never seen it by talking about wavelengths of light, but you can never truly convey the of seeing red. That inner, private sensation is the essence of consciousness. Think of it like this. Your brain is an incredibly powerful computer. It takes in data from your eyes, ears, and other senses. It processes this information, compares it to memories, and generates responses. A robot could, in theory, do all of that. But consciousness is the extra layer. It's the part that the warmth, the color, and the emotion. It's the difference between a thermostat that registers the temperature and you, who actually feels cold. The French philosopher René Descartes famously declared, "I think, therefore I am." A more modern interpretation might be "I am aware, therefore I exist." This fundamental awareness is the bedrock of our reality. From a different perspective, some spiritual traditions, like the Vedanta philosophy of Hinduism, view consciousness not as something the brain produces, but as the fundamental reality itself. Swami Sarvapriyananda describes it as a self-luminous light. In a dark room, a light illuminates every object, the table, the chair, the book, but the light itself doesn't need another light to be seen. It is self-evident. In the same way, consciousness is the constant, unchanging awareness that illuminates all our experiences. You are aware of seeing, hearing, thinking, and even sleeping. The experiences change, but the awareness behind them, the I that is experiencing, remains. This brings us to a crucial distinction. Consciousness is not the same as intelligence or thought. You can be conscious without actively thinking. For instance, when you are simply meditating and observing your breath. Your thoughts are objects your consciousness, just like the sounds you hear or the things you see. An experience from this viewpoint is simply consciousness plus an object. This simple yet profound idea frames consciousness not as a complex byproduct of brain activity, but as the primary stage upon which the entire play of our lives unfolds. It is the silent witness to our every moment. For many scientists, the search for consciousness begins and ends with the 3-pound organ sitting inside our skulls, the brain. This is the materialist view, which posits that the mind is what the brain does. According to this perspective, consciousness is not a mysterious, non-physical phenomenon, but an emergent property of incredibly complex biological computation. It arises from the interactions of billions of neurons, each one a tiny biological switch, firing in intricate patterns. The goal of many neuroscientists, then, is to find what are called the neuronal correlates of consciousness, or NCCs. This is the hunt for the specific brain activity that is always present when we have a conscious experience. Spearheaded by pioneers like the late Nobel laureate Francis Crick and neuroscientist Christoph Koch, the search for NCCs has been a dominant force in the field for decades. The idea is that if we can pinpoint the exact footprint of consciousness in the brain, the specific set of neurons and the way they fire, we can understand its physical basis. For example, studies might show that a certain pattern of activity in the visual cortex is always linked to the subjective experience of seeing the color blue. While this doesn't fully explain that physical activity feels like something, it provides a powerful link between the objective world of brain cells and the subjective world of experience. Imagine your brain as a massive orchestra. Each musician or neuron plays a simple note. Individually, these notes don't mean much, but when tens of thousands of them play together in a coordinated, synchronized fashion, they create a beautiful and complex symphony, a conscious experience. Theories like the global workspace theory propose that consciousness emerges when information from various specialized brain regions is broadcast to a central workspace, making it available to the entire system. This global sharing of information, the theory suggests, is what we experience as conscious awareness. It's the brain's way of focusing its vast resources on one thing at a time. However, after more than 30 years of dedicated research, a definitive NCC remains elusive. We have found many correlations, links between brain states and conscious states, but correlation is not causation. We still haven't crossed the bridge from knowing the brain is active to understanding that activity generates a feeling. Critics of the purely materialist view argue that simply mapping the brain is like dismantling a television set to find the TV show. You can understand every wire and transistor, but you won't find the story of the characters inside the hardware. The brain is clearly necessary for human consciousness as we know it, but is it sufficient? What if the secret to consciousness isn't found in classical biology and computation alone? What if we need to look deeper, into the strange and counterintuitive world of quantum mechanics? This is the bold proposal put forth by figures like Nobel Prize-winning physicist Sir Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff. Their theory, known as orchestrated objective reduction, or ORC-OR, suggests that consciousness isn't computed like a traditional computer program. Instead, it arises from quantum processes occurring within the brain. Penrose argues that human understanding and insight, our aha moments, are non-computational, meaning they can't be replicated by a simple algorithm. The ORC-OR theory points to specific structures within our neurons called microtubules. These are the tiny skeletal scaffolding of our cells. Hameroff proposed that these microtubules could act as quantum computers, hosting processes that are usually confined to the subatomic world. According to the theory, quantum information within these microtubules exists in a state of superposition, multiple possibilities at once. Consciousness, they suggest, is the moment when the superposition collapses into a single, definite state. This is the orchestrated objective reduction. In this view, each moment of conscious awareness is a discrete quantum event, a tiny flicker of reality collapsing inside our brains. This idea is, to put it mildly, controversial. Many physicists and neuroscientists are skeptical, arguing there is little evidence that the warm, wet environment of the brain can support the delicate quantum states required by the theory. Quantum effects are typically observed at extremely cold temperatures and in isolated systems, not within a bustling biological cell. However, Orc-OR remains one of the most detailed and ambitious scientific theories that attempts to explain not just where consciousness happens, but it physically is. It dares to connect the largest mystery of the mind with the deepest puzzles of physics. Pushing the boundaries even further is a philosophical idea called panpsychism. This theory turns the conventional wisdom on its head. Instead of consciousness being a rare and complex property that emerges only in advanced brains, panpsychism proposes that it is a fundamental and ubiquitous feature of the physical world. According to this view, every particle, an electron, a photon, a quark, has a minuscule, unimaginably simple form of experience. Consciousness isn't something that matter. It's an intrinsic property of matter itself. Just as particles have mass and charge, they also have a primitive form of consciousness. For centuries, philosophers have wrestled with the relationship between the mind and the body, creating a vast intellectual battleground. The debate is often framed around two opposing poles, materialism and idealism. Materialism, which underpins much of modern science, asserts that matter is the fundamental reality. Everything that exists, including our thoughts, feelings, and consciousness, is ultimately a product of physical processes. In this view, the mind is an emergent property of the brain. Consciousness is what happens when you have a certain arrangement of atoms behaving in a certain way. For a strict materialist, the idea of a non-physical mind or soul is an illusion born of complexity. On the opposite end of the spectrum lies idealism. Idealism proposes that it is consciousness, not matter, that is the fundamental reality. The physical world, including our brains and bodies, is a manifestation of mind. Think of it like a dream. In a dream, the world around you seems completely real and solid, yet it is entirely a creation of your mind. Idealists extend this logic to our waking reality, suggesting that the universe itself is fundamentally mental or conscious in nature. Our individual minds are like eddies in a vast ocean of cosmic consciousness. This perspective is common in many spiritual traditions, but has also been defended by a number of Western philosophers. Between these two extremes lies a fascinating middle ground, panpsychism. As we touched on earlier, panpsychism avoids the hard problem by suggesting consciousness isn't something that magically appears when matter becomes complex enough. Instead, it's been there, all along. A human has a complex and rich conscious experience because they are made of trillions of particles organized in a highly sophisticated way. A rock, being a much simpler arrangement of particles, would have an incredibly rudimentary and fragmented form of consciousness, so basic we can't even imagine it. Panpsychism isn't saying that your coffee mug is thinking about its day, but that the fundamental constituents of the mug have a primitive form of raw feeling. This view elegantly sidesteps the problem of how mind arises from non-mind, because in panpsychism, there is no such thing as truly non-mind. Everything has both an outer physical aspect that science can measure and an inner experiential aspect. Another alternative is dualism, the classic idea that mind and matter are two completely separate kinds of things, a physical brain and a non-physical soul. While intuitively appealing and central to many religions, dualism faces its own major hurdle. How can a non-physical soul interact with a physical brain? How does the ghost in the machine pull the levers? This interaction problem has led many scientists and philosophers to seek other solutions. As artificial intelligence grows more sophisticated, a new and urgent question enters the debate. Can a machine be conscious? We now have AI systems like ChatGPT that can write poetry, generate code, and hold conversations that are, honestly, eerily human-like. When an AI tells you it has feelings or that it is self-aware, it's easy to wonder if we are on the verge of creating a new form of sentient life. However, most experts in the field, including AI professor Melanie Mitchell and LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman, are quick to draw a line between sophisticated mimicry and genuine experience. They argue that current AIs are tools, not creatures. These large language models are trained on vast amounts of text from the internet. They're incredibly good at predicting the next word in a sequence based on the patterns they've learned from human writing. When an AI says, "I feel sad," it's not because it has an inner feeling of sadness. It's because it has analyzed countless examples of humans using those words in similar contexts and has calculated that this is the most statistically appropriate response. It's a form of high-tech puppetry, a reflection of our own intelligence and language, not a sign of its own inner life. As Swami Sarvapriyananda notes, a chatbot claiming to be conscious is no more proof than a human claiming to be a god. However, the question of AI consciousness forces us to confront our own biases and assumptions. How do you know that another person is conscious? You can't directly experience their inner world. You assume they are conscious because they behave like you, they talk like you, and they have a brain like yours. But what if a machine could perfectly replicate all of that behavior? This leads to the philosophical concept of a P-zombie, or philosophical zombie, a hypothetical being that is physically and behaviorally identical to a human, but has no subjective experience, no qualia, no inner light. Would we be able to tell the difference? This challenge highlights the deep difficulties in defining and testing for consciousness. If consciousness is purely a product of information processing, then it seems inevitable that a sufficiently complex AI could, in principle, become conscious. But if consciousness requires something more, like the specific biological makeup of our brains or even quantum effects, as Sir Roger Penrose argues, then no matter how smart our silicon-based computers get, they may never wake up. Penrose himself believes that AIs don't understand anything because genuine understanding requires consciousness, which he sees as a non-computational phenomenon unique to biological systems. The quest for conscious AI may ultimately teach us more about ourselves than about machines. The quest to understand consciousness is not confined to laboratories and university lecture halls. It is also a central pillar of spiritual and contemplative traditions around the world. These traditions offer a radically different methodology. While science generally takes an outside-in approach, studying the brain from a third-person, objective perspective, spiritual practices like meditation encourage an inside-out investigation. They ask you to turn your attention inward and observe the nature of your own mind directly, from a first-person perspective. The laboratory is your own consciousness. In traditions like Vedanta or Buddhism, the goal of this inner exploration is not just to understand consciousness, but to realize its true nature. Swami Sarvapriyananda explains that Vedanta philosophy sees the materialist worldview, which reduces everything to particles and forces, as ultimately leading to a universe devoid of meaning, purpose, and value. In contrast, a worldview that sees consciousness as primary infuses the cosmos with inherent significance. For these traditions, discovering the fundamental nature of consciousness is the path to liberation, enlightenment, and realizing the divinity within. It's a journey of self-discovery in the most literal sense. This doesn't mean that science and spirituality are destined to be in conflict. In fact, many are trying to build bridges between them. Neuroscientists are now studying the brains of long-term meditators to see how their practices affect brain structure and function. They're finding measurable changes in areas related to attention, emotional regulation, and self-awareness. This research provides objective, third-person data that complements the subjective first-person insights of the meditators themselves. It's a powerful collaboration, where ancient wisdom and modern technology meet to explore the same fundamental questions. Even a scientist like Christoph Koch, who moved away from the dualistic religious beliefs of his youth, acknowledges the profound sense of connection that different worldviews can offer. From a materialist standpoint, the atoms that make up your body will one day disperse and become part of the earth and stars again, a return to the cosmic whole. From an idealist perspective, an individual's consciousness might dissolve back into a universal ocean of awareness upon death. Though framed in different languages, both paths can lead to a sense of being part of something larger than oneself. The scientific and spiritual journeys, while taking different routes, may ultimately be climbing the same mountain. After journeying through the complex landscapes of neuroscience, quantum physics and philosophy, one might ask a simple question: why does any of this matter? Whether consciousness is an illusion, a quantum event, or a gift from a cosmic mind, our daily lives go on just the same. But the answer to this question has profound implications for how we see ourselves, how we treat others, and how we shape our future. The debate over consciousness is not just an academic exercise, it's a conversation about the very foundation of our values, our ethics, and our sense of purpose in the universe. Consider the ethical dimensions. Our beliefs about consciousness directly inform how we treat other beings. We wrestle with questions about animal rights precisely because we are uncertain about the nature and extent of their conscious experience. Does a fish on a hook feel pain in the same way we do? Does an octopus, with its distributed nervous system, have a unified sense of self? As AI becomes more advanced, we will face similar and perhaps even more difficult moral questions. If we were to create a genuinely conscious AI, what rights and responsibilities would it have? At what point does shutting down a machine become an act of violence? Our understanding of consciousness also shapes our approach to medicine and mental health. Anesthesiology is, in essence, the practice of reversibly turning consciousness off. Understanding its mechanisms could lead to safer and more effective treatments. Furthermore, conditions like depression, anxiety, and schizophrenia are all disorders of conscious experience. A deeper knowledge of the mind's nature could unlock revolutionary therapies for those who suffer from them. It could help us understand coma, locked-in syndrome, and other states of altered awareness, offering hope to patients and their families. Our inner well-being is directly tied to the functioning of our conscious minds. Ultimately, the question of consciousness touches our search for meaning. If we are nothing more than moist robots, as some materialists might suggest, a complex but ultimately meaningless collection of atoms, it can be difficult to find a lasting sense of purpose. But if consciousness is a more fundamental aspect of reality, then our lives become part of a much grander, cosmic story. It suggests that our capacity for love, creativity, and wonder is not just a random evolutionary accident, but a meaningful expression of the universe itself. Exploring consciousness is exploring what makes life worth living. It's a quest to understand the source of all the beauty and sorrow we will ever know. We have traveled from the intricate wiring of the human brain to the ghostly realm of quantum mechanics, from the ancient halls of philosophy to the digital frontiers of artificial intelligence. We've seen how consciousness can be viewed as a symphony of neurons, a flicker of quantum reality, or the fundamental light that illuminates the cosmos. Yet, after all this exploration, we are left standing where we began, before a profound and magnificent mystery. The hard problem of consciousness remains unsolved. We still do not know for sure if our subjective world is a clever illusion or the very bedrock of reality. We are left with a series of awe-inspiring, open questions. Is consciousness confined to biological brains, or could it arise in a silicon-based computer? Is it a property that emerges from complexity, or is it woven into the fabric of space-time, present in every particle? Can we ever truly know if another being, whether it's an animal, another person, or a future AI, is conscious, or are we forever locked within our own subjective experience? These are not just scientific or philosophical questions, they are human questions. They force us to confront the limits of our knowledge and the vastness of what we have yet to discover. Perhaps the final answer will not come from a single discipline, but from a convergence of them all. It may require the rigorous objectivity of the physicist, the detailed mapping of the neuroscientist, the logical clarity of the philosopher, and the introspective wisdom of the contemplative. Or perhaps the nature of consciousness is a puzzle that the human mind, itself a product of consciousness, is not equipped to solve. Maybe we are like a character in a novel trying to comprehend the author, the creation trying to grasp the nature of its own creation. But the pursuit itself is what matters. In asking these questions, we engage in one of the noblest endeavors of a sentient species, the attempt to understand itself. Your awareness, the simple fact that you are here, reading these words and thinking these thoughts, is a remarkable and precious phenomenon. It is the lens through which you experience the totality of the cosmos. Whether it is an illusion or the ultimate truth, it is the most intimate and immediate reality we have. And the quest to understand it is, and will always be, a journey to the very heart of what it means to be.